This action by the Trump administration threatens all of us. Every person who uses our highways or public transit, everyone who counts on our government in times of natural disaster or public health crisis, everyone who wants a voice in our government. We know that if you're not counted, you don't count. Today, we're here to say that all Californians count. Today, I'm pleased to announce that several local and county partners have joined us in the state of California to make sure that all Californians count. Those partners in the lawsuit that was filed by the state of California include the County of Los Angeles, the cities of Fremont, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, and Stockton. I want to thank all of them for their partnership. These cities and counties agree that the Trump administration's hasty decision to add the citizenship question violates the Constitution and our federal law. The Constitution requires the federal government to conduct an actual enumeration, those are the words, actual enumeration of the total population of this country, regardless of citizenship status. And since 1790, the census has counted citizens and non-citizens alike. Given the way this administration talks about immigrants, you can understand why immigrant families would be afraid to fill out the census form. If immigrant families are afraid to fill out the census form, we all lose. Local governments use census data to make decisions about your child's class size and how many responders to put on the front line. In our lawsuit, we argue that this decision by the Trump administration violates the Constitution and federal law. First, the Constitution requires, as I said, the actual enumeration of all people in every state every 10 years. By including a citizenship question, which will diminish response rates, the census will not be able to fulfill its constitutional obligation to count everyone. Second, the Trump administration has violated the Administrative Procedures Act of the federal government, which prohibits arbitrary and capricious agency action. All of us look forward to making this case in court and making sure all of Californians are counted and that we maintain their voice in our government, whatever level. With that, I'd now like to turn to the great city attorney of the city of Los Angeles, Mike Fury.
Thank you, General Becerra, very much. We know the Trump administration has created a climate of fear and distrust in communities with substantial immigrant populations here in Los Angeles and throughout the United States. The Muslim travel ban, the cessation of DACA, the cessation of temporary protective status, stepping up ICE raids, including in sensitive locations like courthouses. We see the impact in my office. My office operates a victims assistance program. My staff reports to me that victims of crime who speak Spanish are afraid even to acknowledge that fact. These are victims of crime who have rights that are not being effectuated. My office has a neighborhood prosecutor program. My neighborhood prosecutors in communities of our city with lots of immigrants are reporting a substantial decline in collaboration with our team. And this is no surprise. We live in a city where moms and dads are leaving notebooks on the tops of refrigerators every day so their kids know what to do if the parents never come home. In this setting, it's clear that adding a citizenship question to the census will result in an undercount in Los Angeles. In our city, roughly 38% of our population was not born in the United States. People with documents and people without documents are living together side by side. Do we think that in those households, folks are going to risk opening the door when a census worker from the federal government comes? Do we think that in those households, people are going to complete written census materials? No, here in Los Angeles, we need to assure that the count is accurate. And I want to underscore the point. Every member of our community in Los Angeles stands to suffer if there is an undercount. All of Los Angeles benefits from funds that are allocated based on an accurate count of our population when it comes to everything from transportation to public safety to housing and so much more. In the city of Los Angeles, then, we have an obligation to assure that the count is accurate. And we are not going to stand idly by while the Trump administration tries to take from us, based on this inappropriate, unconstitutional question, the resources on which we rely and the political representation to which we are entitled. I want to close with this. Both the state of California many, many times and the city of Los Angeles have gone toe-to-toe with the Trump administration. Just LA, we're involved in 15 lawsuits alone. A couple weeks ago, we won a nationwide injunction preventing the Trump administration from imposing civil immigration enforcement conditions on a community-based policing grant. So in that setting, we're prepared to fight again, and we're going to win again. Our federal government should be our partner, not our adversary, our supporter, not our antagonist. But if we need to fight the Trump administration to stand up for Los Angeles values, that is exactly what we're going to do. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I have another job. It's a good job. I get to introduce Mayor Eric Garcetti, who's been a leader on this issue nationally, a leader among the mayors of all the cities in the United States to assure that the census count is accurate. I'm very proud to introduce Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for your leadership and the great work. This is like our third or fourth or fifth press conference this week together. The lawsuit that we have joined due to your leadership on opioids, thank you. Thank you for representing the people and the city so well. Mayor Tubbs, it's always great to have another great mayor here. We have traveled the world together, we have seen things in California together, and this isn't a future leader, this is a current leader for our state and for our world. And we welcome you to the City of Angels, and thanks for what you're doing in Stockton for all of us as well. And Hilda Solis needs no introduction, but let me remind you, this is the first Latina cabinet member. This is a supervisor who is responsible for 2 million constituents and 10 million stakeholders, who's doing extraordinary work from transportation to immigration policy, from the social services that we deserve, and who has made history. Thank you, Hilda, for your leadership. And the man who might have sued Donald Trump more than anybody else in the country, the great Javier Becerra, who's my brother, my mentor, my friend, and somebody who I'm so glad is back home in California full time, leading the fight, not just for values, but for what works. That's what I want to jump off from today. Each one of us, when we are sworn into office, we hold our hands up and we swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. That Constitution is clear. And whether it was in revolutionary times, during slavery, in the Civil War, even in the midst of segregation, in some of the worst nativist chapters of our history, during internment camps for our Japanese American brothers and sisters, we still counted everybody. It is the responsibility of all of us if we believe in the Constitution. And if this president and this administration will not uphold the United States Constitution, we will. We've put forward an executive directive in this city in preparation for 2020, working closely with the county and with my 87 other brother and sister mayors in cities across this county to make sure everybody is counted in LA County. But some days you think that Washington doesn't want to hear us. Sometimes it's because what we say, but other times they don't even want to count us. They let the coastlines of other states, because of the politics they decide there, be protected, but we're open for business here on the California coast. They take they take dollars away from our law enforcement, which protects our people, and then they blame us for crime when they're the ones who are taking resources away from our rank and file police officers. The hypocrisy is astounding. But here we will not stand by idly. We are joining together as cities and as a state to speak with one voice. And as the city attorney said, fear has consequences. This administration knows exactly what it's doing by trying to scare people. But all of us have to know this isn't just about immigrants. This is about all of us. When immigrants fear reporting to police officers what happens, rapists and abusers walk the streets for their next victim, and they don't ask for your papers before they commit their next crime. When students stay home and our schools don't have funding because of fear, that makes our schools all be punished. When investments don't get made, when small businesses don't get started, I guess I'm too pro-economy to be anti-immigrant, too pro-family to see this split, too pro-law enforcement to allow the rhetoric to divide the trust that we have built over decades here in this city and throughout this state. So stop playing politics with our people, do your job, count every American and every resident that is here in the United States of America. We plan on upholding the Constitution. We hope you will too. And now my favorite job, I told you who she is, but she's the one who is leading this effort in the county, helped build a justice fund with us to make sure that immigrants would have the defense that they need, so 6 times more likely they have a positive outcome to any deportation hearings. She has been a voice for all of us. Please welcome our supervisor and dear friend, Hilda Solis.
Thank you. I want to thank Mayor Garcetti and the prestigious group behind me, and I especially want to thank our good friend, Attorney General Javier Becerra, who I had the privilege of serving with in the House of Representatives in the short time that I was there. I deeply appreciate the leadership of all those behind me, including City Attorney Fuhrer for his activism, and I am very proud to join in this lawsuit. I'm here today to announce that Los Angeles County will join as a co-plaintiff. The state of California's lawsuit against the Trump administration over its misguided and unlawful decision to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census. The U.S. Constitution, as you know, mandates that government provide an accurate population count of all its individuals, regardless of citizenship status, every 10 years. But numerous studies, including those by the Census Bureau itself, confirmed that adding a citizenship question could undercut this mandate by repressing responses from undocumented immigrants and citizen relatives. Because of the climate of fear perpetrated by this administration, adding a census citizenship question undoubtedly undermines our ability to achieve an accurate census count, meaning that many Californians will be left out. Communities that are undercounted will be underfunded and underrepresented. California, and particularly this county of Los Angeles, which has one of the largest foreign-born population, already faces significant challenges in counting minorities, immigrants, and other hard-to-survey populations. LA County, as you may know, is home to 3.5 million immigrants, and there are an estimated 2.3 million immigrants in California who are undocumented. Today, Los Angeles County is made up of natives from at least 140 counties, speaking over 224 different languages. And under this administration, immigrants have been the target of anti-immigrant rhetoric and aggressive immigration enforcement since the presidential campaign. Simply put, our immigrant residents are having a very difficult time trusting federal government, and they will hesitate, and they will not fill out the appropriate forms for our census, and that will have a detrimental effect on our county. As was stated earlier, it will impact our services that the county provides to those children that may not be eligible at this moment to receive coverage because of their status. We want to make sure that when everyone counts, that if we are able to do that, then we can garner the support, the funding necessary to provide full coverage for everyone. We want to make sure that people have safe drinking water. We want to make sure that the roads are paved. We want to make sure that bus transit is appropriate for our populations. We want to make sure that no underserved communities, like those that I represent in my area, have a voice at the table and know how important it is to participate in the census count. We can't afford to look the other way. We have to strike now and make sure that this administration understands that the loss will be detrimental for us. Did you know that in the last 10 years, for example, our census data, it occurs every 10 years, determine the distribution of $400 billion in federal funding for roads, schools, senior services, Medi-Cal, for the SNAP program. That's our food stamp program. Job training programs for our young people and people who are dislocated workers. The impact alone will be devastating for places like LA County. And all I can tell you is I'm very proud that we have our county council working with us, working with the city, working with our partners in the state to make sure that we count every single person, whether they're an immigrant or not. If you are a resident of California, you need to stand up, and we need to work with you to make sure that you do not buy into that adage of being afraid. and fearful of this administration. So with that, it's my pleasure to recognize our next speaker, Mayor Michael Tubbs from the great city of Stockton. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Tubbs. I'm the mayor of the city of Stockton. I want to start with thanking the leadership behind me, some of the supervisors, the mayor, the city attorney, and to our great attorney general for the state of California. Stockton, California is the 12th largest city in the state, about 323,000 people, and a third of those folks are foreign born. So we talk about immigrants, immigrant families, and fears, it's not some abstract thing. I'm talking about the people I represent every day, the people I grew up with, the people I serve. We're the city of immigrants. The oldest Sikh temple in North America is found in Stockton. At one point, Stockton had more Filipinos than any other place in this world, besides the Philippines. So we're a city of immigrants, we're a nation of immigrants, and as a city and nation of immigrants, we have to stand and speak out for our fellow citizens. People are scared. You've heard it from all the speakers. It's not something we're making up. Every day we get calls from our offices of people who are wondering if it's safe to send their kids to school. We have DACA students who did everything right, who followed the rules, and then arbitrarily the rug was swept out from under them. And now this latest action by this administration puts us in a very similar position. So the city of Stockton is proud to stand strongly and boldly with our immigrant communities, with our home communities. It's not just about the services, it's not just about the funding, it's about our values. And our biggest one being that everyone counts. I was reading recently that the last time this had happened was in 1950. Now I don't know about you all, but I have no interest in going back to 1950. You see, in 1950, most of us here would not be standing. In 1950, that was 4 years before Brown versus Board of Education, which made separate and equal unconstitutional in our schools. In 1950, that was 5 years before the Montgomery bus boycott, making it illegal for folks to ride next to each other despite races. You see, 1950 was 14 years before the Civil Rights Act, which made it so that public accommodations weren't segregated. You see, 1950 was 15 years before the Voting Rights Act, which made it so that you had to remove barriers to political participation. And in 2018, all we're simply saying to the administration is that we are not going back to 1950. So as I close, I say, as the Attorney General so eloquently said, in California, everyone counts. So don't count us out, but make sure you count us in this census, because we're not going back to a time where women, we're minorities, we're LGBT folks, we're immigrants, where the vast majority of our state and our cities didn't count. And with that, I turn it back to our great Attorney General, Mr. Becerra.
So I'm going to try to be the example here. We're going to say some remarks in Spanish. We're going to be really, really, really brief. And I know